it was the easiest money I have ever made in my life. Hi everyone, I hope you guys are well. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about my top 4 online businesses that you should be thinking about starting in 2021. So before we get to it, if you like these kind of videos, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out. So yeah, let's get to it. So I don't want today's video to be super long. I've actually already done a video on 10 side hustles that everyone should be thinking about or be considering if they're looking to start a side hustle, which is a lot longer than this one and a lot more detailed. So if you are interested in this type of thing and you're still looking for more ideas after this video, I'll put a link up there. I 100% recommend checking it out. So I'm going to take you through my top 4 online business ideas for 2021. Specifically for 2021, these will probably work in other years too, but I've specifically chosen these 4 ideas because they're really reflective of the current consumer spending habits, what the world's like at the minute. Obviously, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So these ideas really reflect the current zeitgeist. Is that the right word? God, I'm like flying back to media A-level times. But if that's the right word, then these are what these ideas are really going to represent. So I just think they're going to be really successful in the year 2021. Every time I go through each of the ideas, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how you can get started with these ideas straight away so that this is actually really useful and actionable for everyone. And I'm also going to finish the video with my favorite idea out of the top 4. I love this one so much that I am actually going to do it myself in the next couple of months. So yeah, let's get going. Okay, so the first idea I want to talk to you guys about is starting your own print-on-demand store. So what is print-on-demand stores and why am I recommending that this is a good store to start in 2021? A print-on-demand store is basically an e-commerce store which allows you to sell different products such as t-shirts or other print-on-demand products through your store, and it allows for someone else to fulfill the orders. So for any of you guys who are familiar with dropshipping, this will kind of ring a few bells because it's a really similar business model. So in terms of how this actually works, right? What happens is you create an e-commerce store using a platform like Shopify. And say if you wanted to sell t-shirts as your print-on-demand item, you design those t-shirts virtually using different design platforms such as Canva. I've got a link to Canva below. Using different design platforms, and you upload your designs onto the t-shirts and you use that photo of your mock-up of what your t-shirt would look like. That's what you use on your website and that's what people purchase from, right? So you've created this virtual t-shirt which people look at and they're like, I like the look of that, I like the design. They click buy, they pay for their order, and once that order is processed, a different supplier or a third party fulfills that order for you. So you send the design to that third party, they're the ones who hold the t-shirts, they print the design onto the t-shirt and they ship it out to customers. So it is a really low labor type of e-com store. You know, a lot of e-com, I have 2 e-com stores, and let me tell you, I spend most of my life packaging orders. With this type of business model, you don't have to do that. So that's why it's in my top 4 for 2021. So in terms of my top 3 tips of what you should be doing if this is something what you're interested in and you want to explore further, the first thing I think you should be doing is watching Wholesale Ted's videos. I'm sure there's loads of other YouTubers who specialize in this area, but that's a YouTuber who comes to mind when I think of print on demand. She is an expert in that field and she has tons of video content regarding this subject. So I recommend checking her out. I'll put a link to her channel in my bio. The second thing I recommend you do is figure out what your niche is going to be and what products you're going to sell. If it is going to be t-shirts, for example, don't just say, all right, I'm going to sell t-shirts with different designs on them. Think about what type of designs you're going to be putting on your t-shirts. Are you going to hire a designer to do it, or are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to be targeting specific communities? Like, for example, there's brands who sell like t-shirts for entrepreneurs. Niche, right? But is there a specific market or community that you're going to be targeting? Think about that, write that down and decide what area you're going to target. And then the third tip I have for you is to do some competitive research and figure out, is there a market for these types of t-shirts? If there is, who else is out there doing the same thing? Does it look like they're successful? Can I learn anything from it, how they're doing it? How can I make myself stand out from them? That kind of stuff. The second one is monetizing your Instagram account. I'm making a bit of assumption here and just assuming that you have an Instagram account because so many people do, but you might not, in which case you could create one. But you know, I've made a video on this before, which is where I talk about how I turned my Instagram account into a side hustle, and I actually exposed how much money I made from it this year. It was a small account. I've started monetizing it with just 3,000 followers, but you don't even need 3,000 followers to start that process. You could do it with even less. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. You can do it through affiliate marketing, which is basically where you recommend products, and if certain people buy your products via the link you've shared, you earn a commission back. You could do it through getting paid collaborations with brands, which is definitely the most lucrative form of turning it into your side hustle. I'm actually doing a digital guide on how you can get brands to collaborate with you and pay you the big bucks, which will be coming out shortly. Head to the link in the description if you want to register for pre-sales. If you're not into the whole influencing, taking photos of you and your food type thing, there's other niches, I just said the niche that I do, then don't worry, there's also other pages that you could create where you don't even need to show your face. There are such things as theme pages. I said theme then, theme pages with the TH. You've probably come across them before, but you probably didn't realize that they're actually a business. What theme pages are basically Instagram accounts which are dedicated towards a specific niche. I'll take fashion, for example, because there's so many of those, but they've built up a huge they've built up a huge community of people who are interested in fashion, for example, who all follow their page, and what they basically do is repost other people's content. So they don't need to create any of their own content. All they need to do is figure out which content's going to be well received by their audience and share it and repost it, right? How these pages make money is that they can charge brands for features or shout outs on their pages. I've paid for shout outs on theme pages before for my brands, and they've been very successful, almost, if not more successful than some of the influencer collaborations I've done. So that's another way that you can make money from Instagram. So top 3 tips for anyone who wants to get started with that business idea. The first thing what I recommend you do is figure out what your monetization process is going to be. Are you going to go down the themed pages route where you do shout outs and that's how you earn your money? Are you going to go down the paid brand collaborations route where brands pay for you to produce content and share it with your audience? Are you going to go down the affiliate marketing route where you're going to be recommending products to your audience and hoping that they use a link to purchase those products so you can earn commission? Figure out which one of those kind of payment methods work best for you or for your channel. And then the second thing that I'm going to need you to do is look at your channel and figure out what your niche is and if that's relevant to that form of payment method, right? Because when you're looking at things like theme pages, they do, got a hair in my eye. They do generally tend to perform best for certain categories like fashion. So just make sure you bear that in mind. Also, I could not recommend figuring out what your niche is for your Instagram channel if you're going to monetize it like enough. You really need to figure out what your area is, because that's how you're going to build an audience, which actually brings me on to my third tip, which is to really work on building an audience of advocates. As I said before, you don't necessarily need thousands and thousands of followers, but what you do need is a valuable audience. And by that, I mean you need an audience who believe in you and trust your recommendations. Okay. Third idea is reselling. I've spoken about reselling in a few of my other videos before, because it is such a good hustle, but especially for 2021, because I was actually talking to my friend the other day who loves a good boot sale, right? She goes to boot sales. I think in America, are they garage sales? Garage? Why don't I know how to say garage? Boot sales in England. She actually goes to boot sales all the time because she likes to try and find really cool vintage old school pieces, right? And that's where she finds them. And she made a really good point that they don't exist anymore because people don't like to be around people because we don't want to catch COVID, so everyone's indoors all the time, which means that the way in which people are actually selling their items is different. It's changed, and it's very much gone online. So what that could mean for you is that you might have friends and family who have amazing items which they're trying to get rid of, which they normally do boot sales to get rid of, but they can't at the minute, and they might be willing to give them to you to sell on eBay or another kind of marketplace like that. And the other side of reselling is also, this is quite a lucrative side, is spotting trends for items which are going to be really difficult to purchase. For example, the brand new PlayStation, and signing up to back in stock alert programs. If you've not seen these before, I'll link to some in my description. But basically what they do is alert you when certain products are back in stock so that you can be one of the first people to purchase them. So for example, PlayStation, if you signed up to some of these websites and you got those alerts, you may have been one of the lucky few people who got a PlayStation really early on. And what that then means is you can sell that PlayStation on for a third, 30% more, maybe 50% more of the actual retail price and what you paid for it, because people were so desperate to get their hands on it. And whilst it may feel like that's a once a year type opportunity, it's not. It requires a bit of research from your side in order to really figure out what those next hot ticket items are going to be. But, you know, I've shared this story before. When I was younger, I purchased a bunch of products from the H&M cross collab with Balmain. I still don't know how to say Balmain or Balmain. No one corrected me in the last video, so whatever. Balmain. I'm gonna say Balmain. So I purchased a bunch of clothing from Balmain because I knew that collaboration was going to be huge, and it was really hard to get. I was one of the first people on the site. I bought loads of clothing and then I flipped it all, sold it all on eBay, and I literally made twice the amount of money that I invested in it. It was the easiest money I have ever made in my life. So I could not recommend this online business idea enough. So a few tips that I think you should be doing if you want to start this as your online business in 2021. The first thing you need to do is figure out which niche you're going to focus on in terms of finding your hot ticket items. I say this because in those two examples, I spoke about PlayStation and I spoke about fashion. They're obviously different niches, right? If I was to start doing this, I would look at fashion because I feel like I've got a bit more interest and knowledge in that area, and I would therefore find it easier to find these items which will be really good to resell. If you are really into video games, then that's the area you should look into. You know, think about what you're interested in, because that's going to make the whole process a lot easier. And then that brings me on to my next tip, which is to do your research. Go on blogs, go on good old Google. Google has answers to everything. Go on Google and just start researching what sold really well in previous years. You know, it might be that a certain product sold out within minutes a few years ago, and in a few months they're releasing the second version of it. Use your logic. That therefore means that that's also going to sell out in minutes, and it's probably going to have a really high resale value. So just start with things like that, and, you know, follow that bread trail and you will eventually find the product, what's right for you. My third tip is to buy the product. Buy the product, make sure you've got the money that you need to. If you've done your research, this should be a very fail-safe process for you. If you haven't, you may be at risk of losing a lot of money. The good news is that generally, if you're going to purchase something and you spend £500 on it and you realise that actually no one's buying it when you try to resell it, you can probably just return it and get your money back. So, you know, there's that. My final one, which is my favourite one, and which is one which I'm going to be doing in 2021, I'm already in the process of planning it, is online learning. And by that, I don't mean just take part in online learning, which I actually do massively recommend as well. But by that, I mean actually creating your own online program. So whether that's you starting an online course, or it's what I'm doing, which is creating a digital guide for a topic that I know a lot of information about. I think the key thing about this is it can first of all seem incredibly overwhelming because it requires a lot of work. But also it could be really off-putting for a lot of people who don't feel like they have an area of expertise that they can teach people in. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. We all have something that we can share with others, of which is of value. It's just figuring out what that is. Whilst you should be an expert in this field, that doesn't mean, an expert doesn't mean someone who has been teaching in this field for several years, who's a university professor. That's not what expert means. It means someone who's dedicated a lot of time to learning about a specific area and can therefore have the authority to share that information. And whilst that might sound like, oh, I've got to go do a course or something, you might already know this information. You might have already spent a lot of time in this field. Think about your, like, if you have a full-time job, think about what your full-time job is. Because for a lot of people out there, you would have been working in a full-time job for 5-10 years, but then you'll still sit here and think, I don't have an area of expertise that I can teach. Of course you do, because you've already put in 10 years into a specific field. So you've accumulated so much useful information, obviously nothing confidential, like, you know, not that type of information, but you've accumulated loads of skills that you can share with people. Mine, for example, is business and marketing. So the guide, what I'm working on at the minute, is all about Instagram, how you can use your Instagram to earn money by getting paid promotions. The reason why I feel like I have authority to speak in that space is because, one, I've done it and do it at the minute with an Instagram page. Also, I've hired influencers for huge brands during my full-time job. I've also hired influencers for my own personal brands that I run and my boutiques that I run. So therefore, I have a lot of information on that topic, and I've got a lot of information that I can share. I studied marketing, so I have a degree in it. I've done other courses in marketing. My full-time job is in marketing. I've opened businesses. Like, that's the knowledge that I'm drawing on. Whilst I'm still, you know, am I just saying that just because I've worked in those areas, I don't have to learn anymore? Of course not. I'm still learning more as I develop these guides. But it's an example of how you can really look and reflect on what you've been doing for the past 10 years of your life, and think about how you can actually monetize that information that you've gathered and monetize that skill. And the reason why I have this as my favorite one, why I'm doing it this year, and you know, why I think a lot of people should look into doing it next year, is because as a result of COVID-19, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and a lot of people have actually looked to online courses to start upskilling themselves in different areas so they can get a new job, or they've looked to online courses because they want to, you know, go and do their own thing, branch out and start their own business. People have generally spent more time online than ever before because we've been at home a lot more and we've not had much to do. So people are generally spending a lot more time online, but a lot of people are spending time online learning and upskilling themselves. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to create your program. You know, you can use programs such as Teachable. I'll put a link in my description, which actually is really intuitive and allows you to create your own online course. But this is a really good opportunity for you to actually share some of the stuff that you've learned with an audience who are really, really keen to learn. Also, it's passive. It is such passive income. You create this thing, this booklet, this guide. Yes, it takes blood, sweat and tears. I spend hours working on mine every single day. But once it's done, it's done. You sell it and there's nothing really else you've got to do. So who doesn't like passive income, right? Okay, so top tips for if you want to get started with this business idea in 2021. First thing you want to do is brainstorm your niche. God, that word. How often have I said the word niche in this bloody video? Think about what your area of expertise is. As I said, reflect on your career, reflect on your degree, reflect on what are areas of interest. It might be that you don't work in a specific area, but you're so interested in it, excuse me, that you spend all of your spare time reading up on it, and therefore you've got a lot of knowledge to share. Think about what that is, brainstorm it, do a lovely mind map. You know, I love a mind map, which will bring you on to the second tip. The second tip is all about researching this area. So you figured out that you want to share your knowledge on marketing, for example. All right, well, go and do some research in that area. And by that, I don't just mean go and learn about marketing, because I'm assuming you already know about marketing. Well, by that, I mean look at other courses. What other courses are out there? What type of stuff do they claim to sell in their course? What do you think is going to be a real kind of value offering or a driver for people wanting to purchase your course? That's the kind of research that you need to do, just market research. And then I want you to enhance your learning. So as I've said, it should be a topic that you already have, you know, knowledge in, but that doesn't mean that you're already going to be an expert. Take the time out to learn about this subject even more so. Okay, so that's it. Those are my top 4 online business ideas for 2021. I hope this was a short video because that was my aim, but I know I go off on tangents. So if it's not as short as I intended, I apologize. If that was of interest to you, or if this type of content is of interest to you, please hit the like button, drop me a comment about what business ideas that you're going to be doing in 2021. I'd love to hear from you, and of course subscribe, because that will help me out a lot. Okay, so thanks so much. I will see you in the next video.